On the evening of March 6, 2023, in Huangtian Town, Hezhou City, Guangxi, an electric car made by Chinese company Nano EV caught fire while apparently parked. The blaze was intense, with firefighters rushing to the scene. Fortunately, the fire was extinguished without any casualties or additional property damage. On April 5th, a BYD Han electric vehicle caught fire after colliding with a guardrail on the Baomao Expressway in Guangxi province. Due to the car's recessed door handle design, bystanders were unable to open the door, and tragically, the driver couldn't escape in time. Domestic buses in China experienced spontaneous combustion. On April 6 in Nanning, Guangxi, a Great Wall Ora EV caught fire at a charging station. While fire departments sought explanations from involved parties, the car dealer avoided answering questions about potential vehicle quality issues and evaded reporters. On June 29th, in Chongqing's Tongdan Century Garden, another domestic new energy vehicle caught fire, further damaging nearby vehicles. Netizens commented, quote, "Under China's manufacturing constraints, domestically produced cars are industrial waste, ticking time bombs that jeopardize Chinese citizens." When domestically produced cars that catch fire meet with a local fire brigade that has leaking equipment, the only outcome is further damage. Onlookers ridiculed them, saying they're not professional at all and they probably hadn't had proper training. The series of vehicle fire incidents has left every owner of Chinese new energy vehicles feeling uneasy.
New energy cars spontaneously emitting smoke out of the blue? Just recently, another domestic new energy car was suspected of exploding on the spot. And just last month, BYD faced complaints about fuel tank safety hazards with no clarity provided yet. And now, another one of their cars has caught fire. We all know cars should have zero safety risks. After all, any issue can be a matter of life and death. Manufacturers shouldn't exaggerate their product's performance. Car manufacturing should prioritize safety and quality. A tip for you all: always get comprehensive car insurance for new energy vehicles in such situations. At the very least, you'll be compensated for total loss.
The escalating tension between China and Europe over electric vehicle subsidies has captured global attention. Meanwhile, the price and quality of Chinese electric cars are under scrutiny. Despite the Chinese government's heavy advertisement of its domestic new energy vehicles, various reports about the quality and real-world performance of these vehicles have deterred many potential buyers, both locally and internationally. Mr. Chen, a consumer from Jingdezhen, Jiangxi, reported that his premium electric SUV from Chinese manufacturer Red Flag frequently encountered serious motor system failures, which the dealership could never diagnose. On July 12th, a news story highlighted his grievances, stating that despite the high price he paid for the Red Flag electric vehicle, the dealership insisted, quote, "There's nothing wrong with this car." Mr. Chen has since lodged a complaint with the local District Market Supervision Bureau, but there's been no response yet.
The moment I start it, it makes noises. If I were to take a long drive and it stops on the highway, I couldn't push or move it. What would I do then? Find the problem. If you can't, that's the scariest part. Now the car is in its normal state, and it's supposedly been fixed and protected. The manufacturer told me there shouldn't be any further issues. But do you understand? The unknown reason behind these malfunctions is the most terrifying part.
What do you think about the quality of domestic new energy vehicles?
They're just average. The quality is pretty subpar. The sealing is terrible. The domestic electric car I drive has had quite a few minor issues. Take a look at the craftsmanship of this domestic model. After exposure to sunlight, the front shield crumbled like chocolate. Can you guess which car this is? Yes, it's the Weiwang by Bayer. This company has a reputation for producing substandard products. Can you believe a flagship domestic luxury electric car just exploded out of the blue? Even with Tesla's multiple collision issues, I've never seen them just combust. So why are there frequent reports of certain domestic new energy vehicles catching fire after collisions? If you don't crash them, they might still catch fire parked in a garage, sometimes causing more widespread damage. Buyer or the seller. It's terrifying. It's like driving a ticking time bomb, and with one small collision, it explodes. I've hardly heard of gasoline cars catching fire this way, yet the frequency with which electric cars combust, especially certain domestic models, is alarming. Truly ensuring driver safety seems to be a strength of Tesla. I've never seen daily reports of Teslas catching fire, only reports of their brakes failing. However, news frequently highlights explosions in certain domestic new energy vehicles.
Consumers experienced with both domestic electric vehicles and foreign imports have voiced their opinions. They believe that domestically produced vehicles, characterized by low prices but compromised quality, should be avoided at all costs.
Absolutely won't buy domestic trash vehicles. This is what I saw two netizens arguing about yesterday when I checked their social media profiles. They were both born in the 1980s. Let me share a true story. A few years ago, I met a factory owner specializing in producing high-imitation products. They replicated a foreign speaker brand. The original brand used premium tempered glass and was wrapped in woven fabric, boasting 700 watts of power and sold for over 2,000 yuan. The factory owner made a copy, replacing the glass with plastic and the woven fabric with a cloth, selling it for 1,000 yuan. It sold like hotcakes. Then competitors started making an even cheaper version, which also sold rapidly. As a result, the owner I knew kept reducing costs and competing with price, eventually selling a product that resembled the foreign brand speaker for 69 yuan. The quality was, of course, compromised. In the end, consumers often said, "You get what you pay for." It seems they'd rather buy expensive imports than cheap domestic products. This might resonate with those born in the LS 70s and 80s. Back then, domestic brands competed by continually reducing prices, whereas foreign brands did the opposite, slightly increasing prices but significantly improving product quality.
The battery quality of Chinese electric vehicles has been heavily criticized. One car mechanic commented that the money saved from using an electric car over several years doesn't even cover the cost of battery replacement.
I never claim they save money. Look at our workshop. We've repaired several new energy vehicles. This BYD Ken had its battery leaking and several bad BMS boards, costing the owner over 10,000 yuan. Another BX model had serious battery life issues, costing 30,000 yuan to replace the battery. This Chang and Ado new energy vehicle, after driving over 100,000 kilometers, saved several tens of thousands in fuel, but now needs a battery module replacement costing 30,000 to 40,000 yuan, wiping out all fuel savings. The worst was a 2022 BYD Ken, which after only several tens of thousands of kilometers, had water seep into its blade battery. This caused electrical shocks upon touching, and the entire battery needs replacement, costing 80,000 to 90,000 yuan. The savings from not buying fuel can't even pay for half of the blade battery's cost.
In recent years, Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers have expanded into the European market in a bid to rival European manufacturers. However, European consumers seem unconvinced. According to AutoEvolution.com, several Chinese automakers have established a presence in Europe, but few have garnered any significant acceptance among local consumers. A prime example is NIO, which touts itself as a premium Chinese brand. Research from schmidt-matthias.de further illustrates the uphill battle, revealing that Ferrari's plug-in hybrids have sold more units than NIO's electric cars. In the first half of 2023, NIO's sales stood at 823 units, while Ferrari's hybrids had already surpassed 1,000. Meanwhile, Chinese maker BYD began delivering cars in markets such as Norway and France. However, an Auto Evolution test drive of BYD's Dolphin electric car exposed a problematic driver assistance system that veered abruptly when approaching lane markings, a performance deemed disastrous. A similar issue was found in MG's MG4. Another Chinese brand, Ora, which has models resembling Volkswagen's iconic Beetle, faced scrutiny for significant safety issues with its electric vehicle Funky Cat. When attempting to unplug the vehicle after charging, the plug still emitted visible electric currents. Shockingly, the event was accompanied by a loud bang and a burnt smell. Ora's response, however, was to highlight their cooperation with TÜV and IDI-ADA standards and regulations. They implied that the car's behavior was intentional, with no plans to change it. Auto Evolution stressed the need for Chinese automakers to improve vehicle quality and prioritize safety. Relying solely on technology, user experience, and quality won't open doors in the European market for Chinese electric vehicles. Instead, they've resorted to price wars, cutting costs to capture European attention. On September 13th, Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, commented in the European Parliament on the influx of cheap Chinese electric cars, stating, quote, "Their prices have been artificially lowered by massive state subsidies, distorting our market dynamics. Today, I am announcing that the Commission is launching an anti-subsidy investigation into electric vehicles from China. Europe welcomes competition, not a race to the bottom." The European Commission emphasized that this investigation was initiated independently, not at the industry's behest. After weeks of assessment, the Commission found that the Chinese government had implemented extensive subsidy policies covering virtually every segment of the car industry, from raw material supply to battery production and software development. These subsidies took various forms, from grants and reduced loan costs to direct state shareholding. Thanks to these state subsidies, the price of new vehicles from Chinese manufacturers can be reduced by up to 1/5. This policy has propelled the market shares of Chinese electric cars in Europe to 8% in just a few months. If the trend continues, this share could rise to 15% in the upcoming months. Independent commentator and columnist Chai Shen-kun noticed the discontent among European automakers. Quote, Chinese new energy vehicles, bolstered by extensive government subsidies and sold at rock-bottom prices, are gradually capturing a larger slice of the European market, causing significant dissatisfaction among European car manufacturers, he said. Dumping cars at such low prices is threatening to decimate the entire European automotive manufacturing industry. For the EU, this is a major threat, and they must investigate and inevitably take countermeasures. Over the past few years, China's aggressive domestic subsidies aimed at capturing the international market might be backfiring. Data recently released by the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers reveals that due to substantial subsidies from the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, there's a notable supply-demand imbalance in China's battery market. This year has seen a continuous rise in battery inventory. From January to May this year, China produced a cumulative 233.5 gigawatt-hours of batteries. After subtracting the 119.2 gigawatt-hours installed in vehicles domestically and 45.9 gigawatt-hours exported, the surplus inventory for the first 5 months reached 68.4 gigawatt-hours, nearly 30% of the total production and 57% of total installations. The surplus woes, exports are also facing barriers. With the introduction of the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act and the EU's European Critical Raw Materials Act, new requirements on import quantities and tariffs are making the road harder for overproducing Chinese manufacturers. Expressing strong displeasure over the impending anti-subsidy investigation by the EU, Wang Wentao, China's commerce minister, denounced the actions as protectionist. This has led some media outlets to speculate that a trade war might be looming between China and the European Union. On September 15th, American economist David Huang told the media that this isn't the first time such friction has occurred between the CCP and the EU due to subsidies. Huang stated, quote, China has always subsidized certain industries, offering export rebates, national subsidies, and domestic tax breaks, making these industries more competitive in exports. There have been trade disputes over singular products like solar panels, cold-rolled steel, and aluminum ingots due to these subsidies. The solar panel subsidy issue had once triggered a prolonged trade war and dispute, so this anti-subsidy probe into electric vehicles might spill over into other sectors. China imports a significant amount of food, groceries, and clothing from Europe, which the CCP might use as counter-sanctions. China has been striving to establish a global presence in the automotive industry for the past decade and hopes to continue this trend in the next 10 years. While conventional internal combustion engine technology proved too intricate for China's domestic tech to produce, the threshold for electric vehicles is lower. Seizing this opportunity, the CCP began large-scale subsidies. However, as future profits from electric vehicles decline and their market value diminishes, this trade conflict might fade, much like with solar panels.